Welcome to the channel Tribe. In this session of 12th virtual meetup, we are having Siddhant Wadhwani discussing on DevTestOps Manifesto, accelerate testing the Agile way.
Welcome all to the 12th virtual meetup, where we have two speakers, Jency and Siddhant, speaking on very interesting topics. So before moving on, I would like to thank our annual sponsors, BrowserStack. Huge shout out to BrowserStack, our exclusive sponsors for all community events and premier sponsors for all conferences. I will be inviting our first speaker on the stage, Siddhant. So, Siddhant is a versatile, self directed leader with over 7 years of experience. He is currently working as project lead estate manager at Newful Digital, managing estates across several teams with APAC engineering. Siddhant loves to attend tech conferences on latest cutting edge technologies and network with like minded individuals. With that, I would like to call him on stage to share his knowledge on DevTestOps Manifesto. So, hi, Siddhant.
Hi, Vanshika. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you can take over now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It gives me immense pleasure that we can connect and share this time together virtually from across different locations and time zones. As Vanshika introduced, my name is Siddhant Wadhwani, and as part of today's session, we'll be talking about DevTestOps Manifesto, accelerate testing the Agile way. But just before I dive into further details, let me share a few quick insights about me. So I'm a project lead estate manager at Newfold Digital, managing estates across 8 teams within APAC engineering. And my team mainly focuses on test automation and automation excellence. I have been a key speaker at various tech conferences and recently recognized as a browser stack champion. And yeah, if you do wish to know more about me, just feel free to visit my website, that is siddhantwadhwani.com, or feel free to just simply Google my full name. And yeah, so don't forget to follow me on social media handles. I'm really active on LinkedIn. And without further ado, let's see what I cover as part of today's agenda. So yeah, the focus for this session would be mainly around what is DevTestOps, how does it differ from DevOps and DevSecOps, why is it required, and how does it work? How and where does the CI/CD process get involved? Then we learn about certain DevTestOps tools and accelerators, best practices in order to establish a continuous integration process, some widespread misconceptions about DevTestOps, and towards the end, I'll leave you with some key takeaways. So let's introduce DevTestOps. With the advent of digital transformation, many organizations have transitioned to adopting the agile developmental model, involving the evolution of development practices and test methodologies to fasten deliveries with enhanced user experience. This has elevated quality benchmarks across, from shift left testing to in sprint automation, continuous integration, continuous testing, CI/CD, and DevOps. Things have changed for the better, allowing frequent and quality rich releases. DevOps as a solution to implement Agile has been around for quite some time now. It lets teams automate redundant development and operation related tasks in order to build and release faster. However, the one process that takes a backseat is proper attention to quality of releases. So that's where DevTestOps comes in, where the key focus is on continuous testing. Unlike the Agile Manifesto, DevTestOps has its own manifesto which was coined back in 2018. As you can see, the goal of DevTestOps is not to silo test from dev and ops, but simply to raise the visibility of testers and testing as integral parts of the DevOps quality culture. DevTestOps has set a culture where software developers, testers, and operation engineers work together, which adds value to the product, enhances quality, and helps in faster delivery. Moreover, DevTestOps ensures continuous feedback about the application issues from testers to developers throughout the stages of product development. This indirectly reduces the business risk and possibility of finding defects at later stages. So, how many of you agree with the term software starts with an idea? Now, testing an idea is something that some people completely miss. Testing the idea is vital. Investigating to uncover information, refactoring the idea to enhance and solidify it. It allows us to stem lots of different artifacts that we can test those artifacts to refactor them to. And we can then use those artifacts to stem all of the activities that we conduct, right from designing, planning, development, testing, and maintenance. And those activities produce lots of outputs too. After all, quality software for one. Let's look at the DevTestOps Manifesto. The five principal guidelines stated in the manifesto are continuous testing over testing at the end. It is really important to understand that continuous testing needs to be performed and why it should be avoided to be tested at the end, because bugs tend to get discovered and it becomes very difficult. Embracing all testing activities over only automated functional testing. So, I'll be talking shortly about what testing activities should be incorporated other than automated functional testing. Our main focus would be on ad hoc, automated, exploratory testing, and manual testing in itself. Testing what gives value over testing everything. Testing across the team over testing in siloed departments. And lastly, product coverage over code coverage. Now, these are pretty self explanatory, so I won't dive into each of them in detail, but I'll give you a few seconds to soak it in so that we move on to the next topic. All right. So, talking about the difference between DevOps, DevTestOps, and DevSecOps. Now, most of you would know DevTestOps and DevSecOps are necessary components of test automation within DevOps. Let's look at each of these in a bit more detail to understand the difference between them. So DevOps allows businesses to improve collaboration and productivity between the developers and operation teams by automating the infrastructure, workflows, and continuously measuring the application's performance. With DevOps, developers can write code in small chunks so that they can be integrated, tested, monitored, and deployed within a few hours or a few minutes, making the deployment process much faster. DevOps integration allows software teams to improve the occurrence of deployments and decrease deploying time for new code. It offers an iterative approach to monitor, measure, and improve the software product on a regular basis. DevTestOps, on the other hand, if you know, in the past few years, DevOps and automation test strategies have received a lot of appreciation because teams were able to develop and deliver products very fast. But many organizations soon realized that without continuous testing, DevOps provides an incomplete delivery of software that might be full of bugs and issues. And that's why DevTestOps was introduced. It not only helps in faster delivery of products, but also provides high quality software. And when the software is released, automated test cases are already stored for future releases. Looking at DevSecOps, as we are talking about DevOps, which provides a collaborative approach to development security, also becomes the main responsibility of every team member. Thus, DevSecOps is a combination of development, security, and operation teams, which introduces some security tools to make the process automated. It helps in providing complete security for your application as well as the infrastructure from the initial stage of development. It has an inbuilt security feature that makes it more reliable and robust. Moreover, it also fills the potential gaps and makes an application leak proof by regular monitoring and risk assessment. All right. So, learning a little more about DevTestOps, the new way of accelerating agility. Testing often was being rushed across various companies who had tight deadlines to get the final product released. Today, more companies are adopting the idea of shift left testing, which in theory means moving the testing cycle more towards the start of the software development lifecycle process. Testers' involvement right from the outset at requirements gathering stage eliminates the issues that will crop up later when testing is executed too late. The end goal is to provide continuous feedback to the developers about the state of their code. That's where you yourself don't qualify as a quality gatekeeper, but it is the team's responsibility to take that accountability, take that ownership. And this can help highlight any problems earlier in the process and reduce the risk. So let's understand why DevTestOps is important. DevTestOps requires organizations to embrace all testing, not just test automation. This includes exploratory testing, test development, and manual testing. Testing the things that matter the most in terms of product and customers should be your company's top priority, which is why DevTestOps is such a crucial role in today's organizations. Well, if by now you haven't understood the benefits that DevTestOps has to offer, then let's look at them at a bit more large. Firstly, it helps in increasing quality. Defects are detected at an earlier stage with shift left testing in place, which are easier to fix, ultimately resulting in timely delivery of the product. Point number two, fueled collaboration. The developers and testers work closely together with leading to a better UX and understanding of the module, indirectly increasing the quality of the product exponentially. Third, test automation. It helps drastically reduce the manual efforts that are spent by the team, especially needed for performing time consuming tasks. It helps the teams ensure new features are uh, not responsible for breaking the ones that are already working, and it also shortens the regression cycle from weeks to hours to maybe few minutes by just automating the entire process. Fourth, faster feedback. Like we already discussed, continuous feedback about features that are being used in various processes is vital. The tester becomes an equal owner of the product as a developer. And last but not the least, faster delivery. With automated testing and build processes in place, any human error or dependencies can simply get avoided. So, how does DevTestOps work? Organizations have now realized that DevTestOps minus continuous testing is simply a faster route to produce buggy software. And that is why DevTestOps as a concept is gaining currency. In effect, it promotes a culture of collaboration among all teams involved in the development, right from developers to QA to analysts to product and operations. To build a successful continuous delivery pipeline, you must reduce the cost, time, and risk of delivering software changes. You can do this by enabling more incremental updates to applications in production. Gradually, as you automate your continuous delivery pipeline, the next logical step is to include more quality gates, or as they say, quality control steps in your pipeline process. You can do this by various test first approaches like following the test driven development, behavior driven development, acceptance test driven development, or likewise, or by frequently running automated scripts to test out the new features. As your software release cadence picks up, you should ideally store and reuse the suite of automated test scripts so that it can be used for future releases. These scripts can also be a part of the test automation framework and used to assure project stakeholders that testing is thorough and adequate. So, as I discussed earlier, four types of testing that should be vital while trying to implement DevTestOps. They are exploratory testing, manual testing, ad hoc testing, and automation testing. First, exploratory testing. It is based on the tester's previous experience of having worked in a similar kind of application. It helps in identifying similar loopholes that might stem up within the application or which may have been missed while writing and testing scenarios. Second, manual testing. Even if an organization tries to do as much as automation as possible, there will be cases that may not be automatable. And you might have heard 100% of automation is a bluff. Ad hoc testing. It is a format of informal testing which is not based on a set of test cases. Many errors may go unnoticed if you follow this formal testing method, and that's where random testing plays an important role. And last but not the least, automation testing. It helps save time and shifts the tester's focus on other important areas of the application rather than wasting time doing the same task on a daily basis. So let's look at the role of CI/CD in the DevTestOps process. Now, a DevTestOps model is critical to agile companies as it ensures that the focus of the whole team is on quality and all development undertaken needs to be seamless and reliable. So, how does CI/CD play an important role? It automates the test cycle by getting all possible tests automated. Works with the development team to set up automated unit tests, adding quality gates as criteria to promote builds from development to test environments. Setting up automated builds and deploy processes, defining and automating the handoffs between the developers and testers. It creates test environment profiles in preparation for automated environment provisioning. You can leverage cloud or virtual clusters to set up testing environments on demand. And lastly, integrate the automated testing capabilities with the development team's continuous integration capability to achieve or to establish continuous testing. Now, let's look at the CI/CD higher level architecture that I implemented as part of my project. So here you can see I have divided this into four stages: code development, code continuous integration, continuous delivery, testing, and deployment. So first, let's understand what is code deployment. It is basically programming and coding which circles around people, processes, and tools. People could vary like product owners, planners, designers, architects, developers, testers, DevOps engineers, and leads. Processes could be like around Agile, RAD, SDLC, etc. And tools could be designer tools, IDEs, Jira, Jenkins, Bitbucket, DevOps tools, etc. On the other hand, continuous integration, it is about integrating code to an integration server, for example, Jenkins, which may provide feedback by running tests, scans, checks, etc., and may involve loop with code development. Developers that practice continuous integration merge their changes back to the development or the master branch as often as possible. The developer's changes are then validated by creating a build and running automated tests against that particular build. By doing so, you avoid integration challenges that can happen on the day of the release to merge changes into the release branch. Continuous integration puts a great emphasis on automation testing to check that the applications do not break whenever new commits get pushed or integrated onto the master branch. This ensures that if there is a bug or some issue with the feature code, then the developers can just quickly fix it. Continuous delivery and testing. Continuous delivery is an extension to continuous integration since it automatically deploys all the code changes to a staging environment or a production environment just after the build stage. This means that on top of automation testing, you have an automated release cycle, a release process, and you can deploy your application anytime just with a button click. And if you truly want to get the benefits of continuous delivery, you must deploy all changes to production as early as possible to make sure that you release small batches that are easy to troubleshoot and identify problems earlier itself. And lastly, looking at continuous deployment, it goes one step further than continuous delivery. With this practice, every change that passes all stages of your production pipeline is released to your customers. There is no human intervention, and only a failed test can prohibit or prevent your changes from going on to production. Continuous deployment is an excellent way to accelerate the feedback loop with your customers and take the pressure off your team, as there isn't a release day anymore. Developers can then focus on building software and they see their work go live in minutes just after they have finished working on it. Now, as everything has its pros and cons, DevTestOps too has its own set of pros and cons. Just like it is not easy to always pursue automation, integrating DevTestOps across all the phases of the development cycle can have some negative impact. So, looking at each of the pros and cons in detail, no or minimum manpower is required for deployment and testing due to automation. CI/CD automation allows time saving. Testing and deployment are a one-click process. Minimum deployment errors and quick error debugging. On the con side, outsourced infrastructure needs access to special development expertise. Compatibility issues may appear while imitating the production environment. And lastly, security is one of the most important concerns with DevTestOps, and that's where we had discussed about DevSecOps. Now, some tools that can support automation and the larger DevTestOps are automation testing tools, which basically give the opportunity to testers to create and execute automation test. For example, Selenium, Robot Framework, Appium, um, Catalan Studio, etc. Then we have version control tools, which allow us to keep a track of all the changes that we make or push to a repository, or that are made in the code base. For example, Git. Then we have the automated code development tools and deployment tools, like uh, tools that help to deploy the code onto different environments and onto production without any manual intervention. So you might have heard of Jenkins and Bamboo. We have the configuration management tools, which allow us to configure, manage, and deploy various kinds of services and applications to the system. It ensures the application and computer system are used consistently. For example, Chef, Puppet. Then we have ticketing tools like Jira and Azure DevOps, or certain ALMs, that is application lifecycle management tools, which help to raise issues and keep a track of their statuses. Last but not the least, we have monitoring and provisioning tools like Datadog or New Relic in place, which helps to continuously keep a track of the performance of certain features and monitor them from time to time, which would also help in maintaining the hardware and software infrastructure in a homogeneous state. So these are some of the DevTestOps tools that I've listed down. Talking about certain accelerators which are essential in the journey of becoming lean, increasing the flow, and reducing the test cycle time. First, and the most important, service virtualization, smart stubs at scale. Now, for those of you who don't know what service virtualization is, it is the process of simulating the behavior of selected components within an application to enhance integration testing of the application when it's absent from the test environment. It allows complex applications to undergo integration testing much earlier in the development process. It removes key bottlenecks and dependency constraints of having real, non-impacted applications, mainly monoliths, available, enables early identification and detection of defects. Additionally, the scope coverage of testing via service virtualization can be increased when creating different flavors of test data as part of the service being virtualized. Some examples over here are Wiremock and Hoverfly. Second point, building partially integrated test environments versus end-to-end test environments is one of the key pillars to shift left testing. It increases the production deployments frequency and reduces the overall test cycle when the solutions they are building is heavily integrated. Third, having real-time bird-eye view of transactions, the flow, as well as having the ability to identify swiftly where failures had occurred, is invaluable to both production and non-production environments. Quicker detection and investigation of defects is a key factor in the overall test cycle time. Developing integrated analytics dashboards helps provide a context of failure based on logs as well as customization of error logs. Then unstable infrastructure and unexpected outages have a direct impact on teams' ability to meet the velocity they have committed to. This can be achieved by setting up continuous infrastructure monitoring and alerting to predict their services health score. As manual processes do not provide the agility required to enable continuous integration and delivery, an automation process is required, such as a self-serve test data portal. Point number 6, where we talk about shift right. Test automation can be easily accessible and adaptable by manual users by using a modular automated test suite with a web UI, which in turn enables selecting the transactions from the product catalog to mimic the same user experience. Then we have the consumer driven contract testing. The idea behind consumer driven contracts is that you define a contract between a consumer provider pair and later test the consumer and providers against that same contract independently, which verifies their abidance to the contract. This way, each integration test can run separately and without a full blown end to end test environment. Doing so also enables a continuous delivery as well as early identification of defects in the lifecycle. Last and the most important, test automation at scale. If the organization approach is to automate everything or a majority of features, then it is important that you consider one of the following techniques. First one being designing automated tests for maintainability, modular and parameterized, ideally, using test driven development or behavior driven development. Second, grouping tests in a logical manner so that they can be easily associated with the relevant code to localize any code issues. Third, capture results in a database or dashboard to compare the results to previous builds. Fourth, use a source code management tool to host scripts that can be reusable by others with, with version control. And fifth, move your test onto a cloud service so that the test suites can run parallelly and quickly. Now let's discuss some of the best practices for successful dev test ops. So five of the most important ones is what I've highlighted here. Firstly, adopting more test automation. It is important to not focus only on automating the test case, but also the repetitive process. It helps in saving a lot of time. Second, integration of tools. Selection of the tool should be done wisely to make testing effective, faster, and easier. Third, transparent communication. Communication and understanding between all the teams should be very effective. It avoids confusion and yields good productivity. Fourth, performance testing. It should play a vital role during the delivery cycle to avoid any crash issues which may result due to high volume user inflow. And fifth, perform multi layer testing. Now, all types of testing, such as integration, GUI based, API, database testing, should be incorporated during the delivery cycle, and maximum testing types should be automated. Now, there are following good practices that we can discuss about a successful CI process. Like keep working only with one repository for code and automate the build process for code commits. Merge codes should contain unit tests to check the code and the test coverage. Code should merge as fast as it is ready to be integrated. Authentication of users is required and requirement of build server maintenance as well. Always keep the integrity of the commits done by developers. That's on the continuous integration front. What about continuous delivery? All the environments will copy the production environment and have a strong grip of automation over the deployment process. What about continuous testing? Introduce shift left testing in the integration stage results in confidence over the application. You can check and apply test automation throughout the entire pipeline to avoid unnecessary errors in the deployment process. Making use of effective testing tools in the continuous testing, and always update and review the already in use test cases for better code and test coverage. So now we have covered all the flows. We have continuous deployment, which is left. It will be great if all the deployment processes are done automatically and there is no sort of human intervention. We need to conduct each step of testing in the whole pipeline to confidently deploy the application to the production environment. The team needs to be prepared for rollbacks whenever required, and it is important to enable smoke test in the pipeline to verify if the core and basic functionalities are working correctly. So yeah, these are the best practices. certain misconceptions or myths, as they call, about DevTestOps. The first one being continuous testing requires 100% automation. As we all know, 100% automation of an application is next to impossible. Hence, many scripts are run manually in the process of automation testing, continuous testing. Second, large organizations do not benefit from continuous testing as they have huge development and QA teams, which makes coordination difficult. Continuous testing, since its inception, has been revolutionary for both testers and developers. Developers are moving closer to customers to shape the user experience according to their changing needs, whereas testers are now closer to the developers and business analysts taking part in the SDLC form of the life cycle. Third, DevTestOps is expensive. Yeah, it is. It is a one time investment, but once the team is equipped with functionality, return on investment is tremendous due to better code quality as no commit goes untested. Developers receive immediate feedback about the product from the testers, which helps in finding the root cause and easily fixing the bugs within time. Since bugs are detected early, the cost of fixing is also very less, and almost no human mistake as most of the process is automated. So yeah, let's consider an example of a company called Spotify, as most of you would know. From DevTestOps, rather from DevTestOps to DevTestOps. So Spotify provides a real life example that showcases what it's like to implement an effective DevTestOps approach to scaling an agile team. With an estimated 450 million users, Spotify is the world's largest and most popular audio streaming service. A contributing factor to Spotify's success is its unique approach to increasing team agility, or more specifically, its DevTestOps approach. Spotify's model is well established and people driven. It emphasizes the importance of internal network communications and, most importantly, quality responsibility across all teams. With testing present in all stages of the DevTestOps cycle as a must do process in all departments, Spotify team members are equally accountable for the end to end product. Next, an important topic that I'd like to raise is testing is everyone's responsibility. Just as we look at Spotify's example, most of you must have heard about the test pyramid, which is a metaphor that tells us how a grouping of software tests must be considered across various buckets. This term was basically coined by Mike Cohon, and it was later restructured a bit by Martin Fowler, where you can see that the base of the pyramid is where you have your unit test, and then moving forward you have your component level test, contract test, functional API UI test cases, and at the top of the pyramid is where you have your end-to-end testing. Now, testing at the top of the pyramid is what tends to get more costlier, and it's the main reason is it's more of integration. And if you test at the bottom of the pyramid, it's more of isolated test where your uh, overall return on an investment also becomes less costly, and you can write a lot of unit test, a lot of modular test, which will overall benefit your entire approach. One key point that I would like to highlight is automation is not a tool; it is more of a mindset change. Um, you need to consider that instead of who will do it, how will it get done? And another thing is like you can automate everything, but in case you automate the wrong things, it could trigger a ripple effect of damage. So it is very important for us to understand the true value of testing. Now, here there are 8 points which I'd just like to iterate: prevent defects, evaluate work products, verify requirements, validate the test object, build confidence, reduce risk, share information to stakeholders, and find failures and defects. Imagine the importance of testing that releases a quality product onto production. How many of you think that programmers are just developing features, maybe referring Stack Overflow and sitting back relaxed? And the job of a tester is to perform all such steps And at the same time, once your changes get into production, um, you need to monitor the performance, you need to debug the logs, you need to keep a track of feature usage as well as certain other KPIs. So yeah, it is important to adopt an agile testing mindset, and at the same time, we have the testing manifesto in place where five important points are highlighted. That is, we must value testing throughout over testing at the end. We must value preventing bugs over finding bugs. We must value testing the understanding over checking the functionality. We must value building better features with quality rather than thinking about how to break them. And lastly, we must value working and testing as a team rather than testing in silos or just relying on self. Another important thing that is needed for DevTestOps is setting a test center of excellence. Test Center of Excellence is a strategic framework that mostly circles around processes, tools, KPIs, and innovation. It plays a key role for any organization to shift its focus to a quality first approach. Now, the steps that are involved in setting up a Test Center of Excellence is first, you need to analyze the business vision and priorities and needs and challenges. That can be done by using the SWOT model, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Second is standardizing the process, forming best practices, following guidelines, and defining KPIs for measuring performance. Third, very important, synergizing with teams to align with the business goals with a focus on quality. Fourth, sharing the learnings across other business units to improve strategies and expand accordingly. And fifth, creating dashboards that could track metrics like the return on investment, uh, use models like Kokomo. If most have heard the constructive cost model, it's a part of the SDLC developmental models and CMMI. There are certain challenges that many of you might face while setting up a test center of excellence. It could be like a significant investment in time, effort, and money. And again, it depends on the organizational vision and the business commitments. There are difficulties associated with provisioning the right set of skills and overcoming the lack of communication. Setting the direction and prioritizing the effort of task with implementing a test center of excellence is also challenging. But I have a research that proves organizations that have adopted test center of excellence have reported that they were able to achieve 50 to 70% level of automation more in terms of testing, with an average of 30% reduction in test cycles and also limiting the defect leakage by 2%. So yeah, that's basically what I had for today's session. Let me share a few quick key takeaways. DevTestOps is a great way to improve the release cycles and streamline the product deliveries as per market and user requirements. Quality must be into the product or service, and testing shifted left and right. Follow the five principal guidelines as stated in the DevTestOps Manifesto. The DevTestOps Manifesto, which was coined in 2018, let me just reiterate that the goal of DevTestOps is not to silo test from Dev and Ops, but simply to raise the visibility of testers and testing as integral parts of the DevOps quality culture. Now, just to end the entire presentation, how does the future of DevTestOps look like? So, DevTestOps as a technology would be a game changer in delivering reliable and high quality end products. The application following DevTestOps concept to test would have higher stability, faster delivery, and unmatched quality end product delivered. DevTestOps would also help testing professionals to have better job satisfaction, as it would offer them chances to learn more about new tools, practices, which with each passing cycle of time. So yeah, that concludes my talk for today. Thank you all for joining. I am hoping that you found this session really insightful. A special thanks to the Test Tribe community for having me here once again. And folks, please do share your feedback for today's session. I have the Slido here with me. Just scan and we are good. Yeah, Vanchika, all on to you.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Siddhant. So we will be taking questions from the chat for another 10 minutes, and then we'll start our another session. So we have one question from Sagar. The question is, if bug was not repeatable in application, then dev test ops help in deploy bug-free application. You're on mute, Siddhant.
Yeah, so I'll just call that out again. If bug was not repeatable in application, then DevTestOps helps in deploy bug-free application. Um, okay, I'm not sure if I've got this correctly, but um, so if bug was not repeatable, I believe so it's not necessary that bugs could repeat or could not repeat. Since DevTestOps helps adding continuous testing as a part of the DevOps cycle, it would help for future releases. So tomorrow there could be a change in the feature or the requirement, and this could always play an important role. It is not necessary that we should keep a focus more on bugs or specific bugs that could occur maybe only once, but DevTestOps is more of a mindset change and ideology that needs to be adapted across your entire team. So it is important that your developers, your testers, business analysts understand the meaning of testing throughout the life cycle rather than just testing at one specific phase during the cycle. And once your changes are onto production, you completely forget about it. So that's the basic idea about this.
Understood, understood.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question, Sagar. We have another question from Maheshwaran, who is lead engineer at Alexis. He's asking, is DevSecOps is a union of DevTestOps because security is also a priority?
Got it. So yeah, a very good question, Maheshwaran. I would say it is not a union of DevTestOps, but it should be a union. It is ideally what I would propose is you must follow DevTestOps, but don't forget security. Try to integrate that within your process. Again, there could be terms from like dev test secops and stuff, but it is important for you to have security at your advantage, because having reliable features with less security concerns delivered to customers is a top priority. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Siddhant. We have another question from Yashwant. His question is, nowadays it's very difficult. Uh, we have different environments like SIT, UAT, debug cluster, and prod. It will sometimes have few issues. So sometimes few issue will be leaked. Why will dev test ops help?
So, like you mentioned, we have multiple environments. In fact, giving a reference of how we test for our products, we also have about 4 to 5 environments. We have a pre-production environment called as Canary or something. So, it is important that you test across, like I mentioned with DevTestOps. The benefit out of this is it is not you alone who is taking that responsibility, it is your team now. So the very first part of your life cycle starts from the developers, where they themselves are writing unit tests following the test driven development. So the faster they are able to fix their set of the bugs and stuff that they notice, it will make it easier going forward across different environments. It is possible that by the time you get the changes to test, there may be hardly a few issues left, and that results to better customer experience.
Understood, understood. Yeah, we have another question from Yashwant itself. Okay, as a QA lead, we approve the release based on various screenshots, videos, and reports. Even after some of the areas which issues, a few issues are getting leaked, it's not might be code issues and from quality standards, but there might be few reasons. So
Yeah. So a very good point, Ishwan. But I would say instead of also relying just on screenshots, videos, and reports, it is important to do a bug bash or a team huddle along with the developers and the product. So everyone is aligned and you don't miss out on small scenarios that may have been tweaked during your sprint cycle. At the same time, it is important to formulate a test center of excellence like I covered. You need to have best practices and coding standards in place. So you keep a very important focus on quality. Like we discussed, quality is everyone's responsibility. It is not just you who should be a gatekeeper, but rather your team should be taking that accountability, that ownership, and that's what would tweak your entire process a bit to uh, get better quality standards.
Yeah, understood. I hope that answers your question, Yashwant. Uh, we we have one from Maheshwaran again.
Sure.
Any quick tips on how to make our junior team members empathize with our user products since you are managing many teams seeking your help in this area?
Absolutely. So it's very important that they have a complete understanding of the product in itself before um, directly writing or automating tests. Because once they are able to understand the entire flow, the product flow, they can understand from a customer's perspective that what exactly are the critical flows they want. And there could be purchase flows, there could be sign up flows which are really important, that need to be tested. Things need to be recorded as part of KT sessions if they are not already. The documentation plays a very important role. And sorry, is someone saying something? Okay,
No, no, you can continue.
sure. So it is very important for you to be that um, you to take that responsibility for your junior team members. Like you should yourself be involved in that process of guiding them based on your experience. Keep having multiple huddles, so where you share your experience on how you um, encountered certain situations, and that will help your team look up to you and maybe take up that as a advantage. Yeah.
Got it, understood. So Maheshwaran's question is answered. Okay, so Yashwant is asking a repeat question from the last one. So he's saying we actually do governance calls, processes, defect triage calls and all, but still certain areas might need help because he could not able to see that automation is not helping us because it's very complex design from integration aspects plus DB, ES and Mongo. So
Okay, I'm again not sure if I got this correctly, but what I see is because we could not able to see that automation is not helping us, because it's very complex design from integration aspects. Um, sorry, I can't. Uh,
Yashwant, can you probably if it's a question, can you type it a bit more clearly because it's not understandable right now. If it's just a remark that you're making regarding the last question. Okay, so Yashwant's question is how DevTestOps will help
oh,
in this scenario.
so see, I don't know what current methodology your team is following. If it's already DevOps, then it's a bit of adding continuous testing throughout the life cycle. Like you might have seen a couple of figures that I had around my slides. You have testing around the entire process of DevOps. So how DevTestOps helps? I mean, we discussed throughout the slide, like it is not you as a tester who takes the responsibility at one testing phase, but throughout the life cycle. So yeah, that basically covers it. Agile plus DevOps, we have CI/CD as well. Exactly. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that ends the questions that we have. So thank you so much, Siddhant, for that sharing of knowledge and insight. Like I could see in each of your slides, like there was this bite-sized information and knowledge, and you were explaining a lot about it. So a really good presentation. I'm sure everyone will agree when I say that we learned a lot from this session. So thank you so much. Hope to see you soon again in another one of these sessions, sharing on some other topic.
absolutely. Thanks a lot, Vanchika. Thanks for hosting me.
Thank you so much, Siddhant.
Thanks everyone. Take care.